Welcome to The Blitz, a podcast from Coram Deo Church. The Blitz is all about tackling tough topics head-on at full speed. Are you ready? Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever time of the day it is that you happen to be checking out this podcast. My name is John, lead pastor of Coram Deo Church, and I'll be your host once again today on The Blitz. Hey guys, hope you're doing well. I think it's probably been a while since I've dropped one of these. Been a lot of stuff going on in church life and Easter and all that stuff, but wanted to take a little bit of time to go ahead and share some thoughts I've had to address something that recently happened that I've just found to be incredibly curious, and it has to do with a speech that Tucker Carlson delivered on April the 21st at the Heritage Foundation. I'm guessing if you're on social media at all, you probably have heard about this. Maybe you've seen a link to it somewhere. If you haven't watched it, I would definitely highly encourage you to go ahead and watch the speech. I think it's about 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes in its entirety. It's not a long listen, and I think it's actually very much worth the time. But I watched it last week, and I was dumbfounded. I was encouraged. I was also disappointed. I was disoriented. It really struck me, and I ended up trying to talk through things with my wife. We watched it together, and so what I want to do is in this episode, I'm going to try and unpack what my thoughts were, what the takeaways were from that speech. So, excuse me. In the speech, if you see it, in the address that he gives, Tucker Carlson is very, very clear and forthright in regards to the evil that we are witnessing, the global nature of it, meaning this is happening all around the world, and also the depth of it, the intensity of it in terms of this government-endorsed, funded sexual mutilation of children. In our state, Washington State, I believe they just recently passed a bill basically making this a sanctuary for kids who want to transition. And if you are in a household that's not supportive of that or affirming that identity, the state will protect you. And I believe the state will help you get the medical procedure that you so desperately need, which is, it's just a wicked thing. And this isn't just in Washington State. This is all over. We happen to be in one of the most evil states in terms of that. You've got Washington, Oregon, California. It's like we're all trying to win this depravity race. And then you've also got other liberal states like New York. But it's just wild. And so Tucker was looking at the sexual revolution, what is going on with gender reassignment, the way that is being couched, and anybody who questions it is being demonized as a racist, as a nationalist, as a nationalist, as a hater, is whatever word you can come up with, whatever derogatory word you can come up with to label somebody. That's what's happening. And you've also seen that with with the mandates and the way the government is treating people. And so Tucker's looking at the landscape, and he's just like, this is clearly evil. This is not rational. You cannot have a conversation with these people because these people deny reality. Rationality assumes a reality, and so you simply can't have conversations about this stuff. And he says, this is just obvious. It's just unquestionably evil. And I agree with him. It is unquestionably evil. Now, one of the things that Tucker does in his speech is he makes fun of himself. He teases that he's making this cultural assessment, and he's making it coming from an Episcopalian upbringing. So I don't know if Tucker currently attends an Episcopalian church, or that's the kind of church that he was raised in and doesn't attend anymore. I don't even know if he attends church at all. But he did identify himself as Episcopalian, that is at least his background. That's his religious background. And he was poking fun at himself as in essentially saying Episcopalians are barely Christians, right? There's barely any theological, doctrinal, ethical distinctions there, groundwork, foundation. And even he, as an Episcopalian, can see that what is happening is evil, okay? And so he makes that comment. Again, he's joking at himself. And he makes that observation a number of times. And what absolutely struck me was this juxtaposition of Tucker, who I don't know if he has faith in Christ. I don't know that. I don't know if he actively participates in a church, and he comes from a admittedly very loose liberal. I think he called himself like we're the Samaritans of church. We're barely even a church, barely even Christians. I went back to the Episcopalian website, by the way, and the first thing I saw was this massive building that was lit up with the rainbow flag colors, and there was all these statements on how Episcopalians are welcoming and affirming of all people, all genders, all whatever. It's the whole woke, gay pride, LGBTQ plus thing. It's taken over the entire church. And so that's the background that Tucker's coming from. I don't believe he ascribes to any of that, but it just is further making the point. Hey, he doesn't come from a conservative Christian background, and yet even he can see what is clear and plain before him, and that is that what we are witnessing as a culture, as a society, as a country is objectively evil. And he even goes as far as like, one of the things that we need to do is we just need to pray. That's all we can do is we pray. We can't rationalize ourselves out of this. We can't reason our way out of it. You can't reason with people who want to sexually mutilate children. How do you have a rational conversation with somebody about that? And so he calls it evil, and he says, hey, we need to pray. And so, and again, go back and listen to it. He says more than that, but that's a summation of it. He's unapologetic in calling what is happening right now in our country evil. And so on the one hand, I appreciated, without feeling like I need to justify his faith or his tradition or where he's coming from, just the observation that this is evil and we should pray about this, that God would change it. I'm trying to understand how Tucker Carlson, who is or at least was a TV personality on Fox News, who is, a journalist and giving his opinions, and how it is that he can stand up to a mic in front of, I'm assuming there's at least hundreds, probably thousands of people present, and I know millions of people have seen that video clip. He has the courage to call out what is evil. He has the courage to call evil and to not nuance it to death and not soften all the edges to make sure nobody is offended. He just calls evil, right? There is a clarity, there is a conviction, and there is a courage to what he does. So I'm trying to understand how it is that Tucker Carlson speaks with such clarity and such courage and conviction. And I'm scratching my head trying to figure out when did some of the heroes of our faith, the heroes of the church today, are they speaking with a clarity, with a courage or a conviction that is even remotely close to what Tucker, the Samaritan Episcopalian, barely a Christian guy, are they speaking with the same type of conviction that he is? And as I thought about that, I was like, they're not. How is this possible? How is it? And this was me in the moment responding. I'm going, why doesn't Tim Keller talk with this type of clarity? When is the last time I heard John Piper talk with this kind of clarity? When has the Gospel Coalition released any resources that were this clear and courageous and possess this type of conviction in their writing or in their speaking, when did they produce something that even remotely comes close to where Tucker is at? And I was scratching my head going, I don't know when this has happened. I honestly can't remember the last time that this happened. And so what that did is it led me to start digging and go, maybe, honestly, I don't follow TGC closely. I don't even follow them at all. I see some of what Keller does on Twitter and Facebook every once in a while, and I really have not paid close attention to Desiring God since 2020. And so I thought maybe I'm being unfair. Maybe I just need to quickly go back to some of those sites and to see perhaps they are producing resources that are clearly addressing the issues of our day, and I'm just missing them. And I don't want to jump to conclusions unfairly on their behalf. So I went to Keller's Twitter account, and I just started scrolling. And yes, I know that his son posts a lot of stuff for him. It's not all his son, but some of it is, maybe most of it is. So I just started scrolling. I couldn't find any resources that had the clarity, the simple clarity that Tucker had. And then I thought, well, maybe I'll go to TGC. So I went to the TGC website and I started scrolling through their articles, and I really couldn't find anything there as well. And then I thought, oh, okay, keep looking. So I kept looking, and I found some articles about the dangers of video games for men. I'm like, okay. And I kept going, and I couldn't find anything. So then I went to the little search bar and I typed in LGBTQ. And I found on the TGC website, most of the articles were a couple years old, but they did have one that was about a year old. But the article was how LGBTQ people experience harm in the church. So it's not even dealing with the issue of the indoctrination. It's not dealing with the issue of the lie of LGBTQ. It's not dealing with gender reassignment surgery. It's not dealing with the suicide rates. It's not dealing with the harm. It's not dealing with sexually mutilating children. The article is about how LGBTQ people experience harm in the church, okay? I went to Desiring God. I went to their website. Again, I'm scrolling just, the first couple pages. Is there anything recent? No, there's nothing recent. All right, I go to the search bar. I am looking up LGBTQ, and the last one that I could find was 2 years ago. 2 years. Do you know what has happened in our country in the last 2 years? Do you know how much progress the sexual revolutionaries have made in the last 2 years? Do you know how the conversation has shifted and changed in the last 2 years? And I couldn't find anything from Desiring God. Again, Desiring God, TGC, Tim Keller, I couldn't find anything that even closely resembled or demonstrated the type of again, the clarity, the courage, and the conviction that Tucker Carlson had. Now, if you're like freaking out right now, let me just clarify. I'm not even saying Tucker Carlson is a Christian. I don't know what his personal faith is. I have no idea, okay? But I will tell you, it is alarming when an individual like Tucker Carlson can clearly articulate this cultural moment. He can grieve over it, and he can call evil evil, and he can tell people that they need to be praying. When he can do that, and some of the most influential Christian leaders, people who clearly identify themselves as Christians, I'm talking about Piper, Keller, the like, Russell Moore, how is it that they are not speaking with such clarity? How is it that they are not speaking with the courage and the conviction that Tucker is? And what it led me to was to ask this question: what type of framework do you have to be working from to ignore this issue publicly? What kind of theological framework do you have to be operating from in order to get you to the point where you're not talking about the sexual mutilation of children, which is going on right now in our country? Where do you have to be? And I can't answer that question definitively. I can't tell you exactly where you have to be, but here's what I'll say. It can't be somewhere good, right? It can't be a healthy place. At least I can say I don't understand how they could be coming from a healthy place. It is absolutely mind-blowing in light of what is happening. And it's happening everywhere. Like I mean, maybe you live in a town of like 200 people in the Midwest. Maybe there's a small town in Wyoming or South Dakota or something where this isn't at your doorstep. But I'm telling you, it's everywhere right now. Like everyone is dealing with this issue. I just heard, I think it was like a week or two ago, how there's a controversy over the abortion pill. So today, over 50% of abortions they're not performed in a clinic like at Planned Parenthood where they kill children, but they're done at home through an abortion pill. And so there was some ruling that came down that said this is a violation of, I think it's the FDA. And so the Supreme Court put a pause on that. And so the pill still can be purchased. And so Gavin Newsom and Jay Inslee, who are the governors of California and Washington, respectively, were both stockpiling this pill. They were spending millions of dollars of taxpayer dollars to buy this pill before it was illegal so that they could kill children in the state. Like, this is happening, people. This is happening. You think about that. You think about what's going on in the schools. You think about, I mean, just all of the insanity with the sexual revolution. And it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And so how is it that Tucker Carlson demonstrates this conviction and can speak with such clarity, and these other organizations and these other leaders are not? How's that possible? I can only speculate to how it's possible, but I can tell you this. It is deeply concerning. It is deeply concerning when trusted leaders remain silent on such weighty issues. It really is concerning. But in that, I think there's something to really be encouraged by. One of the things that I've noticed, these things actually happened in close proximity together. The Tucker Carlson speech, listening or reading the article by, I think it was Naomi Wolf, and then I listened to a long episode of the Theology Pugcast on, I think it's called The Return of Ancient Gods or something like that. Listen to those guys. Those guys are great. They are so smart and so helpful. Listen to the Theology Pugcast. But those three things kind of happened in the same period, like within the framework of like a day or two. And it was like, I am incredibly thankful that people are speaking up. And I'm incredibly thankful for a Naomi Wolf, who isn't a Christian, right? Her background, she's a very liberal feminist as far as I know. And so she's not a conservative. She's not a Christian. But she's looking at what's happening, and she's being converted to deism right now. She, based on what she has witnessed and observed just in the last 3 years, she has concluded that there must be a good God, because that must be the opposite of the evil. There's a real evil that's going on. It's an evil that cannot be rationally explained. She concludes that there must be evil spirits and evil forces in the world. And so if that's true, then there must also be a good force, a good being in the world. So she's on the road to deism, but she sees it. She doesn't have a Christian worldview to diagnose the world with, to look at the world through, but she sees it. Tucker Carlson, again, Don't know where he's coming from, but he sees it and he's speaking out. And I'm hopeful that more and more and more people will start speaking out. They will call evil evil, and that increasingly, right? This has to happen in the pulpits. It has to happen in the pulpits. Pastors who are trying to be nice, pastors who are afraid of offending anybody, pastors who are too cowardice to call evil evil, they need to repent. Maybe they need to walk away, right? Maybe they need to step out of ministry. But we need in this moment clarity. This is evil. Courage, the ability to speak it, and conviction. We will stand. And we're willing to pay the price for what we believe. That's what the church desperately needs. And so I'm thankful for Tucker's for his courage and for his clarity and his conviction in speaking this out. And I truly hope that some of these men and the organizations that we have trusted in the past, that they will follow his example. 10 years ago, can you imagine saying, man, I wish Tim Keller would follow the example of Tucker Carlson? But you know what, guys? That's where we're at. And my hope for you is that you too will have clarity to see what's going on, that you will have courage to speak and the conviction to not back down. Thank God for Tucker Carlson. And guys, we gotta pray, because things ain't great right now. Okay. All right. Well, that is it for this episode of The Blitz. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, go back if you haven't listened to Tucker's speech, listen to it, and also go check out the Theology Pugcast. P-U-G, like the ugly little dog that looks like it ran into a wall with its nose smashed. Theology Pugcast. Those guys are great, and there's a series that they did. There's one on demonic stuff that's really helpful, and there's another one on Have the Ancient Gods Returned. Very, very, very insightful and worth your time. Go check them out, and until next time on The Blitz, take care, and we'll see you soon. All right.